They were there to dismantle a chimney, a steel chimney, without cutting gear. They noticed fumes coming off the chimney, the inside, so they stopped work and they asked the managers of Carnal Metal Box, was it safe and did they need breathing apparatus. One of the managers emailed ICI, who supplied the chemicals what were used at this chimney. They got an email back telling them to stop what they were doing, as there was a great possibility of an explosion. The managers didn't show Craig and Paul this email. Instead they put it in a drawer and sent them back into the chimney, signing a not work permit. A few hours later there was an explosion and Craig and Paul were killed.
It's like a sea hook, it was called, a piece of metal, a 1.5 ton metal sea hook of lifting gear that rested on the bottom of the sea, and it fell and the top of the sea it pinned him. And it later turned out there's 4 sea hooks on the factory, and my dad had thought they weren't safe, so he'd made a cradle for 3 of them. He was in the process of making the 4th one. No one on the shop floor knew that that was dangerous. Nobody knew that they shouldn't have been working, because it took 5 men to lift it off my dad when he was pinned. That's how heavy it was.
Mike was an electrician. He had been working in Edinburgh to begin with on the day that it happened. He was helping a colleague pull cables through some roof space, and as his colleague described at the trial, he then saw the roof space sort of belly, and Michael had the shock by then and had fallen onto the false ceiling, and he then fell at the feet of his colleague. What had happened was the circuits, as they were being wired into the circuit board, they should have been locked off with padlocks. That hadn't been done. The padlocks hadn't been supplied. It wasn't difficult, these things, to get them right. If they had just invested the time and the money and got these things in place, it wouldn't have happened. It was so easily avoidable. So easily avoidable.
The reason for the get-together was it was Dawn's brother's birthday. As a family we always have big family get-togethers.
The shopping centre's called Trafford Centre in Manchester.
And it seemed a new shopping centre. It was quite high profile at the time. People wanted to go there, see what it was like.
And we all sat there together and enjoyed a meal. And then shortly after the boys had finished their meal, they said could they go and join some children who were playing just a few feet away, a few yards away, on this stage that they had there. So my brother said yes, okay, and all 4 of them trotted off. Been there a few minutes, not very long at all, and we heard a loud bang. And we walked over, we ran over there and found that Sam was underneath a barrier. And yeah, he died there he crushed to death by an 18-stone railing that had just been left there.
Andy had been dismantling a printing press, and he'd gone in to do some overtime. He'd been on top of some scaffolding working on something. I think it was to get a big press roll out. The scaffolding had not been erected properly. So there was no guardrails, he wasn't wearing a harness or hard hats, but something caused the scaffolding to move, and consequently he fell and subsequently suffered a head injury.
Graham had been with the agency for about 3 weeks before he was killed, and had been going to Allied Bakers on and off. He'd been constantly getting into kind of difficulties because some of the other firms that he was being sent to He'd bald tyres and run a lorry, so he'd refused to drive that. And he'd been saying to me that when he was going to different places to do with the bakery, he was finding it really upsetting, the working conditions, and he said quite a lot of the workers were in danger.
There was a knock on the door with the manufacturer. There was two people standing there. One was a manufacturing manager and one was a shift superintendent from the blast furnace or the heavy end area. And immediately you know then that I knew that Andrew had been affected. There was 2 men missing, 2 men they couldn't account for, one of which was Andrew. I suppose then your fears, they just come true then, your worst fears.
They had 4 lads in there, none of them with any experience whatsoever.
He shouldn't have been in there because he wasn't allowed in the tank till he was 21 and he was only 17, and they've tried to make out that Stephen lied, but they knew how old he was. He'd been there from work experience. It took 2.5 hours to get him out of the tank because of it being that he had to be confined space trained. And as I say, after we'd given Stephen the last rites and we was all there with him and had prayer, that is when 3D director turned up and asked how he was, and I said, well, I'm afraid he's died. And I just didn't even want to speak to him at that moment in time because I thought that they should have sent someone earlier on in the day to find out what was going on. But they didn't care.
The managing director of the company was an hard-faced, he was just a typical businessman, you know, let's throw some money at it and it'll go away. But he got fined about £9,990.27 or something, to which the managing director got his chequebook out of his breast pocket and said, "Can I pay now?"
I know we wouldn't get justice because I know that's not the name of the game. The game of the game is protecting negligent employers.
It's like a game played between adults, you know.
The victim is not the person who was killed. It's like a reverse. The victim is those who's guilty.
I think like most people, you expect everything's done on the evidence that's given to the court, but we found that evidence wasn't enough.
No.
Supposition and hindsight would seem to be the 2 main factors in the case.
People don't understand that it is a crime. They broke laws. If this was me or you, we would be in a court and we'd be imprisoned before. If I had did something and killed somebody with my car, I would have been convicted, imprisoned and out of prison before they even got into a court.
It felt more like a battle with the justice system than the justice system delivering justice, really.
I thought the legal system, the law, the police, Crown prosecutors, coroners, all these people of high standing, I actually thought they were there to help the victims. But I know now that that's not really the case.
I wanted the law to work for me, and it didn't.
Real justice is not really done, you know. It's somebody said it's all we've got and it's better than nothing. That's true, but that doesn't help you as a family.
Our nightmare carries on. My nightmare won't leave me until I join Craig.